The biggest part of the problem we're facing on Earth is that the average human being, certainly not in this room, but the average human being walking around on this planet, does not understand what a right is and cannot give you the simple definition of a right. A right is an action that does not cause harm to another sentient being. If harm is resulting, the action is a wrong. If no harm is resulting to someone else, that action is reserved as a right. And it is quite simply that easy, that simple to understand. These energies, these expressions of natural law always work unilaterally. You cannot jump columns. Once you start with love, you cannot jump over to the right-hand column. Once you start with fear, you cannot jump over to the left-hand column. Okay? The order follower never understands cause and effect, and that's another reason that their intentions are meaningless. Only understanding how reality works, how we are getting the result of what we put out into the universe. Cause and effect, however, are often separated by time and space, which makes the understanding of the laws of cause and effect sometimes difficult, because as soon as you do an immoral behavior, an anvil doesn't drop on your head from the sky. But if we had to define what a cult actually is, this would be my best definition of it. It's a system of religious veneration and devotion which espouses beliefs that are dangerous, especially to the lives, rights, and freedoms of those who are not its members. A cult's beliefs are dangerous to others because cult members erroneously believe that they have rights which they actually do not possess in nature. Let's look at some of the cult beliefs of order followers. What are the belief systems of the cult of ultimate evil? Cult belief number 1. We place our faith in authority. Authority is an illusion. It does not exist in nature. What these people believe in and condone, regardless of what anyone wants to call it, I'll call it what it really is: slavery. Cult belief number 2. The second belief of the cult of ultimate evil. We have rights that others don't have. Cult belief number 3 of the cult of ultimate evil, the order followers of this world. Government is our God. This supernatural entity that can grant rights or revoke rights. It can determine morality based upon its whim, the legislative stroke of a pen. I can write something down and I can make it moral. I could say the next day, oh no, we were wrong about that. That's prohibited now. Now it's immoral, and you could be punished for doing it.
Let me see if I understand your position. Basically, would you say that it's wrong for the citizens to initiate physical force against other citizens like an armed robber does?
Unless we permit
but
that
it's okay
by law.
It's okay for the government to do so.
Because the government has been authorized by the people.
Okay, but if the government authorized armed robbers to do it, it would be okay?
If the government is that foolish to do so, I don't know what kind of country that would be, but that's legal, and if it's constitutional, so be it.
Okay, so you think that it's wrong for a citizen, an individual citizen, to initiate force against others to deprive them of their property, but it's okay for the government to do it if the majority has elected that government.
It is okay if the government is authorized to do so. The government is authorized to levy taxes, and the authorization comes from the people.
Do the individual citizens have the right to initiate physical force against other citizens that have not initiated or threatened to initiate force against anybody and haven't violated anybody's property rights?
They cannot do that because they are not authorized to do so under the law.
So individual citizens don't have that right. If they don't have the right to initiate physical force against other citizens, could they have properly delegated that right to the government?
Oh yes, they do so right now.
Can you properly delegate a right that you do not have?
You can give the right to their representatives to make laws that will authorize or make prohibitive certain activities.
So you think that you can delegate
absolutely.
a right that you don't have? You can properly delegate a right that you don't have?
You cannot tax your neighbor, but you can authorize me as your senator to vote for a program that will tax your neighbor.
Okay, so if you say that a person can properly delegate a right that they do not have, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't have the right to use your home in Hawaii, right? But could I delegate that right to some of my friends?
No way.
Right, so you really can't delegate a right that you don't have. You have to have the right in order to delegate
We're
it, right?
talking about the government here.
Right, but you agreed that the individuals do not have the right...
You can authorize the government
right, but did you agree...
to take over my residence.
Okay, but did you agree that the individuals did not have the right to initiate force against the other individuals? They don't have that right.
No.
So...
although some people think they do.
Then they could not have delegated that right if they didn't have it.
They would delegate authority to us, their representatives, to make laws in their best interest.
So even if they don't have the right, they can delegate it to somebody else.
To make laws that might do that.
So then you think that you can actually delegate a right that you do not have. The individuals do not have the right to initiate force against others. I would suppose...
as individuals.
Well, if they get together, then all of a sudden they have the right?
If they authorize the government to do so, yes.
Well, if
they
nobody...
authorize the government to enter into a war and kill people, that's a right.
It seems like there's a contradiction there as far as if you say that all legitimate governmental powers derive from the people. You agree that the individual citizens do not have the right to initiate force against other citizens, then it would seem clear that they cannot delegate that right to the government.
Why don't we just leave it this way? We disagree.
Whoever cannot see the logical fallacies and total inconsistencies in this person's total perversion of cognitive processes, I feel they are just as sick as this individual is.
You work for a corrupt organization. Oh. You work for the largest terrorist organization in the entire world.
Well, you know what, guys, you have a wonderful night. You're driving around the city. Make sure we're all doing the right thing, okay?
You got it.
You too. Take care. I will. I'm enjoying those tax dollars. I would check your eyebrows.
I bet you are enjoying those tax dollars.
Wow. That's what the thugs do.
Some people here today are very likely to possibly be upset or angered by this information. So be it.
One thing we have to remember is that a lot of these people have the chance to be conscientious objectors. They have the chance to lead ethical lives. They have the chance to leave a life of crime, and many of them refuse to do so.
The fact of the matter is that the truth itself, by its nature, is belligerent because it wages war against all forms of mind control.
Why do you continue to live in such like a horrible environment, like a lawless, corrupt environment? I mean, you could move to another country that has no government and laws and just forage on your own.
I don't present this information to be liked. I don't present it to be popular. I don't present it to make money. I don't present it to make friends. I don't really even want to do this with my time, as I've told many people in the past. I already know this information. I already understand it. I already live it. I already put these principles to work in my personal life.
And apparently you have nothing better to do.
Well, I'm actually protecting people right now. So, well, if you want to have a rational conversation, we can.
Oh,
and I can explain it.
How? Because there's nothing going on.
Well, because these police officers are trying to catch people who are committing victimless crimes, and I record them to make sure that they don't do anything out of line, break any rules, commit any unnecessary violence.
I present publicly because in the time we're living in, there is so much overwhelming ignorance regarding this type of information that the fact that I do understand it and live it places me in a position of moral obligation to speak those truths to other people, to help them to understand it and then apply those principles in their lives as well.
So you're a liberal because you want to you want to help people, right?
Yeah, I believe that people do need help to help themselves, they don't need handouts.
So let's talk about the techniques of cults. How do the cult leaders keep the cult lower down members, the rank and file, in line. Demonize the outsiders, those who don't belong. You know, the civilians. You know, somebody recently just told me what police and military are calling us are civilian pukes. One of the big names going around within the cult. The civilian pukes.
How often do you get victimized?
Huh?
Curious how often you get victimized?
By you guys?
No, by anybody.
Well, I've never been victimized more so than by police officers and people calling themselves government.
Don't tolerate any individuality within the cult. One's old identity has to be completely broken down and reformed.
But like when we ask opinions, like, what do you think about this? Don't you think there are too many laws type thing? And a lot of times I can't comment. And it's like, you're not allowed to have a brain? You can't think for yourself? Most of the time they don't like identifying themselves, so.
Even though many departments, it's their policy that
they don't give a shit.
Oh, of course.
They're doing exactly what their bosses are telling them, actually, even though the PR says otherwise. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be on the force.
Right.
How do you make decisions on the job if you can't even answer a simple question like that?
Completely shed and then built back up to something new and different that falls in the rigidly restricted parameters of the cult belief.
People tell you have integrity by your actions.
Yeah, you're actually obligated to give that since you're a public official.
A lot of times the officers need to be reminded.
Yeah. We tried that.
It's a little better coming from the start than I think.
Right.
And you know what? They'll be all too happy to tell you that this is what they're doing to you. In the Marines, they tell people, we're going to break you down, boy, and then we'll rebuild you back up in our image. They're all too open about how they employ these techniques.
I guess you feel comfortable feeding your family on stolen funds and engaging in criminal activity against innocent people when there is no crime committed?
I take pride and happiness in the joy that you can walk around and spout off whatever the hell you want. You haven't been punched in the face. Nobody's taken your phone yet. That you can be a little lamb and feel safe from wolves.
Well, you guys are the wolves.
Repetition is one of the greatest forms of mind control, if not the most powerful form of mind control.
Okay, so I'll say educate ourselves.
Indoctrinate the mind. Give it the belief system over and over again until they believe it. Keep repeating the lie until it is widely believed.
Get online or go to the library and read Order Revised Statutes, and that's what I'm upholding in the Constitution.
Right. Well, first off, you're not upholding the Constitution. That's for damn sure.
You don't think so, but I think I do.
I knew they were going to be like on high alert, like, oh yeah, but this is a little bit much.
A perpetual atmosphere of fear.
What's your name?
Hey man, you sure that's not a weapon? Don't be filming me. I don't know what that is, okay?
What is?
Are you serious right now?
Have the watch commanders looked and make sure it's not a weapon?
Are you serious right now?
I'm serious because
it's a camera.
Okay, I don't know that until someone looked at it.
And as we saw in the natural law expressions, fear can only lead to ignorance, confusion, control, or slavery, and ultimately chaos.
You don't know, but
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. That means that you've seen something of the sort.
I have.
So then you would know if you were looking at it.
No, I haven't seen a weapon that looks like a camera a lot of times.
Okay, we don't have any weapons. So this is not a weapon. This is a camera. It's called a GoPro.
So you can follow up with this department that handles all of those requests, okay?
Correct.
Can I leave this over
Yeah,
here?
yeah, right there.
I'm not pointing weapons. Okay.
But it depends on what happens with, the psychologist. So some people, some departments, that happens and they never go back. Obviously a traumatic experience.
Right.
Something that none of us want to go through.
The supporters of order followers constitute ancillary cult membership. They are ancillary cult members, secondary members of the cult of ultimate evil.
So on your guys' spare time, is it going to the bar to have a drink, or is it going home and sleeping?
It's going home, drinking, and beating their wives for the most part.
What reality do you live in?
Well, that's just the truth. The amount of domestic violence is higher in cop families. That's a well-known fact.
doing something for a reason?
Yeah, I'm recording the police.
Huh?
I'm recording the police.
For a reason?
Because it's accountability.
Well, it would seem that government is creating all the conditions that lead people to the desperation of crime in terms of poverty, the war on drugs, the actual wars created by government, right? All the so
previous governments, not the current government.
Well, come on, they always blame the previous governments. It's never the current government, right?
It takes time to change.
And you know what? There's a whole lot more of them than there are the main membership of the cult.
For accountability?
No, the guy's having a hard time. He probably wants some privacy.
Okay, this is for his protection, actually.
I'm not. What's that? No. No.
Women have to step into a infinitely more powerful role that they have within their capability to change this world through the non-support of these cult members, the non-support of dominators.
But if you want to know about the question you asked regarding the reality I live in, if you look at statistics, you'll see that domestic violence is higher in cop families than in any other type of families. So that's why the comment.
You do research, you're good.
What's that?
Because domestic violence, I've already been through it with multiple men, and they're not all cops.
I'm not saying they are.
When they step into that kind of power, that's when women are stepping into the true sacred feminine power of real care, real heart-based intelligence, and that's where is going to be their power to completely transform this world.
Is there a problem with him?
What's his name?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't recognize him. I don't know.
Can't you put...
Who was driving that car that day?
You don't know because...
No, I don't. I can't pull it up right now. I don't have time to start pulling up things. Is there a problem with him right now?
Can you have somebody else pull it up?
And who has time?
And the other thing is, I'm not gonna provide you that information either.
Well,
why? There's transparency.
Sure, there's transparency.
So that falls
what do you
under
need
that.
it for?
So I was just walking past them, and they started asking me questions, and then started threatening me with, no, it's not. No, it's not their job. It's not their job to commit violence against innocent people.
What are they doing right now? Do you see have they hurt anybody? Are they being violent?
Well, not yet.
But you know, the supporters of order followers are everywhere. Men, women, children, etc.
I just feel like you're trying to just throw definitions at me to change the way I think about something when the government's good.
You know, he should have obeyed the law. They're crucifying him for a legitimate reason. They're just doing their jobs, just following orders.
The soldiers on the street who are just following orders at their behest for money.
I'm doing my job.
Okay,
I'm doing what I need
listen.
to do. I'm going through the proper channel.
Bottom line is we just out here doing our job.
The defense, I was just doing my job, just like it did not work for the Nazis at Nuremberg, is not going to work for you guys either.
So there's never just doing our job. It's always, did I do right or did I do wrong?
In many ways, the supporters of order followers, the ancillary members of the cult of ultimate evil, are doing more damage to the morality of human society than the order followers themselves.
In front of the cops, you're gonna kick my ass? Okay.
I have done the research, and if you look up the statistics, you'll see that the percentage of people who are domestic violence is committed against them are committed by police officers. And you will see that if you look it up. Yeah. So, I mean, it is true. I mean, all you have to do is research it. It is.
Your research on felons.
What's that?
It's higher.
Well, it's not. And a lot of police officers are felons.
Looking within your states, not within just Portland, looking within your states in the United States.
I've looked through the entire country.
Especially due to their vastly greater numbers.
I don't know every single officer.
Unit number and the date?
Say again?
The unit number and the date, who had that car on that date? We've done this before, so I know that at least if you can't, somebody can.
I can't.
People always want to pass the buck. They want to point fingers outward.
I have no comment to that. I'm not in charge of that.
So about the vehicle code being this thick, too many laws, don't you think?
Too many laws? Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some contradicting in there.
I don't know. I don't read them.
Have you read them?
Not all of them.
But listen, we've come in here before, and the person who was sitting there in that chair went on his computer right then and there when we gave him the unit number, the date, and he was able to pull it up right then and there.
Okay, I'm not going to do that for
Because you don't want
okay?
to, or because
not
you
because I
can't?
don't to, because we have a department that handles all those requests.
But then why could he?
I don't know. I'm not that same officer. I have protocols I have to follow.
And so does he, I thought. But, I mean,
Why are your protocols different than his, though?
That's fine.
I have no comment.
Okay, well,
Being a congressman.
You enforce these laws, but you don't have them memorized. I mean, come on, that's too much. No?
No what?
You said no, like it's not too much.
Like I said, I don't make the laws.
They never want to do this. See, that's what I had to do to get out of the cult. Couldn't do this. Couldn't say it was you. Couldn't say it was the cult leaders. I had to recognize at a deep fundamental level of my being that I was the problem. And I was wrong.
Find out. Do something stupid. And see if they'll apply to you.
So you're saying that your willingness to impose your violent will upon somebody is factual evidence that you have jurisdiction over them? I would feel more safe if I had the ability to hire my own security rather than be forced to pay thugs who are going to commit violence against me.
Doing the great work is to help others to realize that in supporting and condoning the legitimacy of authority and government, that they have actually been supporting and condoning the legitimacy of violence and slavery, and that they were immoral for having done so.
I mean, so, okay, we have our free society now. So once you get rid of government, now it kind of transcends into humanity, you know? Well, humans, I mean, you got rid of government because humans run the government, you know? So
because humans can't be trusted with power, that's why we're going to be that much better off making sure that we have real accountability for them rather than giving them an institution that protects them from accountability. That's what government does. Government says, all right, you can be bad and you can have power and maybe we'll vote you out of office in 4 years, as opposed to, no, you're done, you're gone right now. So that's the advantage of that.
You know how much violence would be if we weren't here?
There would be a lot less because your whole job is reliant on violence.
Involved at the highest level of doing the great work is our own deep understanding of the psychological factors that are at work in the order follower. Because if we don't have that knowledge, how could we possibly help them to heal and overcome this condition of being indoctrinated into a cult?
You know, so what would rising up look like to you then? Right now, in order for a cop to arrest someone for a victimless crime, they not only have to have a political system that elects a politician who writes a law and the money collected from taxes and the salary to buy the guns and the uniforms and the facilities and everything else, but they also have to have a certain amount of social acceptance. Otherwise, they would be an outcast in society. The system wouldn't work.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
At some point, the actions of individuals become so unpopular
Dumb it down. Don't just dumb it down.
Okay. If enough people say cops shouldn't be able to enforce victimless crime laws, then the community will no longer support them.
You know, more people having educating themselves instead of going through the government schools and all that, you know, because the knowledge they give us is only made to set us up to function for society.
A way that's tied into the cartels in a way that here it's more like big pharma. But in Mexico, what you end up, major pharmaceutical corporations that are able to, big drug companies who corrupt the political process by buying off politicians.
Okay. And what they ultimately need is healing of that dynamic, transmutation of that dynamic by engaging with them and helping them to understand these psychological factors that are taking place within them.
This is what you need to do. You need to stop going down and being friends with the enemy by telling them that you're okay with them, by telling them that everything's good.
Until we commit to engage in that work, do not expect it to change, expect it to get worse. Because when these factors are not dealt with at a conscious level and healed at a conscious level, they eat us at a subconscious level. And eventually that subconscious level, those demons come into the real world and they eat us there too.
Get her out of the car. Just get her out of the car and throw her in cuffs. Fucking reach for anything. Hey, he took our cell phone. Don't reach for anything. How many times do I gotta fucking tell you? I don't want you to perform any illegal actions, sir. This is unnecessary. Quit fucking reaching. I'm not reaching, you understand me? Somebody help!
Go to the people that are violating our rights and admonish them. Challenge them. Ask them the hard questions. Get toe-to-toe and look them in the eye and say, this isn't okay.
We're the ones who know what's going on and are conscious, and a lot of other people around us are asleep. But you have to battle through that condition through willful persistence. Persistence is required to do the great work. Even if this is people's condition, you speak the truth to them anyway.
Are you allowed to talk like, just about how you feel about things?
I am allowed to talk about how I feel about things, sure, but...
You plant seeds that could blossom at a later point in time, once they've seen a little bit more and grown a little bit more. Never stay silent when it comes to issues of right or wrong. You have to speak that truth out into existence, into the universe.
And I hope we planted some seeds in this guy.
You can't win them all, and some people you just got to plant seeds for.
The fear of personal responsibility. Again, the abdicators, the biggest group of order followers.
But if you have the power to defend the Constitution, don't you have the power to defend all of it? I mean, can't you arrest a judge if he's violating his oath? Wouldn't that fall under the purview of your authority that we gave you?
This thing called proof.
Well,
probable cause.
I could go into that courtroom and prove to you right now that the judge is violating due process and probable cause. Would that be enough to make you arrest the judge?
It's probably not going to happen.
I know.
Just admitting it. He doesn't want that obligation on him. Well, you know what? Doesn't matter. It's on you whether you want it or not. An individual's personal responsibility to choose right action over wrong action for themselves is always their own.
At some point, it's like this. You're going to have to choose. Are you going to stand with the big, powerful judge in the robe and its political friends who say, do this, kill that person, put that person in jail, hold that person in chains? Or are you going to say, no, moral God-given rights that every person has, those are what I have to defend. That's more important than anything. It's more important than a paycheck. It's more important than a nice uniform or a badge or a bulletproof vest. At some point, you have to choose which part of that. Are you going to be in the Gestapo or are you going to be in the resistance?
An individual is always responsible for their own actions. There are no cop-outs.
Which I know you don't have an answer for that either, but I'm just saying, just think about it, all right?
He probably does on a personal level, but not on a professional level.
Well, but there's no difference. There's only personal, and there's only right and wrong.
I love David Icke's quote on this from one of his early books. He said, accept responsibility for yourself and your actions, thoughts, and words. You alone make choices. You alone are answerable to the consequences of your behavior. The feeble excuse that your boss required it, the establishment expected it, holds no truth or justification. What is the point of having principles if you allow others to dictate your behavior? At the end of the day, you will judge your performance and the contribution you have made to creation. It will not be based on what another expected of you or what you did because you felt trapped.
Watch what's happening in the courts.
Opinions and facts.
Just as it is not possible for an order follower to truly be exercising conscience, it is not possible for an order follower to truly love themselves. Not possible. No one who is actively involved in the dynamic of order following can be an individual who truly loves themselves.
If I knew that there wasn't a police officer to stop me from doing something, that would make your range of...
Okay, hold on. So you're saying that human nature is so bad that the only reason you're not like murdering me right now and taking my wallet is because they're cops? Like you don't have an inherent sense of right and wrong?
The difference between society and non-society is there's survival of the fittest. That's in everybody. Everyone's got a survivor mode. If you're hungry enough, you will go in that mode.
At some core psychological, spiritual level of their being, they are engaged in self-hatred.
Help! Help! Somebody help! I told you to stop fucking moving. I'm not! Somebody help!
I have suffered, and therefore I shall cause suffering. And that is the path to slavery.
Stop moving. Help! Stop moving. Somebody help! Lincoln 64, Lincoln 63. I'm getting out of the car voluntarily. Don't drag me out. I'm voluntarily getting out of the car.
Only self-respect can heal self-loathing and therefore help to put an order follower on the path to conscience. Working with the shadow material of the self is some of the most difficult work one can ever do, and that's why most people turn around and run away from it 1,000,000 miles an hour in the opposite direction.
It's hard to take initiative against the government because the way the laws are set, you know. So I'll say educate ourselves.
And when I got out of the cult that I was involved in, it took long, hard hours of self-introspection and endless, what seemed like endless days of suffering that would never end, because I had to keep delving into that shadow material and working with it and saying, hey, you caused this. You're part of this condition. You're part of the continuation of this evil. And you have to change what's going on in here and here if anything out there is going to change. And most people don't want to do that work.
More people becoming free thinkers, you know, more people having educating themselves instead of going through the government schools and all that, you know, because the knowledge they give us is only made to set us up to function for society.
Could it be that your standards are too low?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, because everyone in politics is shit.
Okay, so ultimately, would we be better off if no one was president, if we just got rid of the entire federal government then, got it down to the states or even more local than that?
Oh, yeah, that would be great, but that's not going to happen.
Cult members often have a fear of chaos, of what would happen if this thing I've always known and always been a part of would suddenly be gone.
Where will the order is necessary?
How would I live? What would be my identity? How would we do things that we've been doing, you know, with this system in place if it wasn't in place?
That's why we have to get rid of government. Government is disorder. Government is chaos. Government is wars and the police state and innocent people going to jail and everybody getting stolen from, all the working class getting stolen from to support the super rich. If anything, you're right. You're absolutely right, and that's all the more reason that we need to look beyond government as soon as possible.
You can't just leave it up to chance like that.
True freedom, ladies and gentlemen, includes infinite possibilities. No better definition of true freedom in my book. By definition, infinite possibility includes the possibility of chaos manifesting.
So once we got it down to the local level, we'd still want a way to make it really accountable to the people, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, then at that point we could transition, right? Like we could get rid of the arbitrary nature of government and replace it with nonviolent institutions that are purely cooperative, right?
Yeah.
So the first step in that process would be to take government apart from the top down, get it localized.
Okay.
We cannot fear that possibility. The possibility of the manifestation of lower orders or small amounts of chaos taking place in our world has to be, must be embraced without fear. Or even, not necessarily without fear, but again, with courage.
So let's say we do that. So we have no more order, no more structure, right? You know, no more hierarchy, no more laws, government, none of that, right?
Well, you'd have voluntary hierarchy. So like if you wanted to get into an organization, if you wanted to have a club and the club has a president, you'd have a club president or a company president or something like that. But then if you vote him out or if all the customers leave because they don't like what he's doing, then they have no power, right? So it can change as soon as they screw up.
Those who believe that authority is necessary and that it must continue have actually been duped into believing that human slavery is necessary and must continue in order to prevent chaos.
Like, the government's great. You can talk about police doing stuff like that. I've been arrested personally multiple times, and I still would vote for police to be here.
He punched me! He punched me! He punched me! He punched me! He's punching me! I didn't do anything! I didn't do... Help!
I'm telling you, you're very safe. I'm thankful for the police.
Violence and slavery cannot prevent chaos because violence and slavery are chaos.
It's the perfect system if it would ever work, but it'll never work because as soon as you put people into a system, people are corruptible, and people will always be corruptible.
Help! 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 Help!
You're saying that because I happen to be in a location where there are violent criminals who are imposing their will and their violence upon innocent people, that I should be the one that moves? I think you guys should be the ones that get an ethical job and go into the private sector and stop trying to violate people's rights.
If things are so violent, who do you think keeps some of that in check?
You guys certainly don't.
The sacred feminine, or the lost principle, as I refer to it, is the dynamic of care.
We have to get the people. We have to get the people to rise up. You know?
The world is the way that it is today, sadly, because most people do not care enough, even if they say they want things to be different, to change the world through their actions.
But give me a specific example. What is it like? What is it that government does that you want to see continued in a government-free society?
We still certain laws, you know, like. You know, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Even then, is there anything that the federal government is doing that the state governments couldn't do better or more in line with the will of the people in those states?
The only thing is taxes. That's it. We get federal funding, but even that, a lot of that ends up getting taken out of people who work for those states in those states anyway. So no, not really. Just small infrastructure shit, but most of that's even taken care of, even on smaller levels, by like counties and stuff.
In order us to do that, we need I'm pretty sure we need a huge amount of people, you know.
But your argument is basically, well, because we have to, because we don't have a choice, which isn't true.
So those kind of thinkers are the minority.
Or because enough people aren't joining us, then we're never going to be able to step away from the system.
It's not that easy.
But if everybody who thought like you, and by the way, it's a lot more people than you think.
Oh, it's everyone. Yeah, it's like almost everyone.
So if you just said, hey, maybe I'm not going to vote for the two-party system, maybe I'm going to look for something else.
The non-aggression principle, it states, very simply, do not engage in violence.
Well, there's no chance with government that we're going to have a nonviolent system. It is by definition violent. It is by definition coercive.
Violence is the immoral initiation of undue physical force which one does not have the right to take against their fellow being.
What the fuck? Oh my god!
I'll get her up and...
Oh my god! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
I'm
relatively free.
Relatively free. But you're in absolute freedom in which no government, none of that, right?
Well, no violent control, right?
In other words, do not immorally initiate non-rightful use of physical power to coerce, constrain, or compel the rightful physical behavior or free will choice of other sentient beings.
We have no more laws. Okay, I don't really...
Well, there would be one law. In order for it to work, it's one law, and it's the natural law. It's that you own yourself, right? As a free human being, you're not a slave. No one owns you. You own yourself. And that's a foundation of ethics that is the natural law. So it's wrong for me to assault you, and it's wrong for me to steal from you.
That's what I was looking at, okay? So, all right, natural law.
They only have the willingness to use violence to impose their violent will upon us. They use their weapons. They think it's funny to be violent against innocent people. And these are the idiots that are paid through theft and extortion. These are the kidnappers.
So how do we respect that is what you're getting at, right? So it's actually not that hard, because if anything, when we have government says, well, we don't have to respect the natural law because we're government. We own you, and we're going to steal from you whenever we feel like it. And if you live in a different country, we're going to murder you whenever we feel like it because the military-industrial complex says so. So if anything, in a world without government, we have greater respect for those things.
You're saying you'd like to put the fate of society into fundraising instead of government programs.
I'd like to put it in the hands of people who are going to commit to nonviolence.
The self-defense principle. This principle states sentient beings have the inherent right to use force to defend themselves from violence conducted upon them by another. Never to initiate that force, but to use it in response to violence that has been waged against them in proportion to that violence.
What guides me is this ethical principle that I own myself.
Once again, I just want to reiterate the powerful role, especially that women can play in this sacred union of bringing forward the care and the compassion to help transmute the consciousness and the mindset of the order followers.
Think about this. I mean, just like reason this through.
Because, you know, they keep me safe. They keep you safe. They especially keep you safe.
From what?
From people out here.
Men are the physically stronger of the genders here on Earth, of our species, and therefore they're groomed for that role. The out of control masculine aspect. The dark masculine aspect.
Your name and badge number. Is it your baton? Is
Sergeant Alvarez.
Sorry.
My badge number is, let's see, 4836.
But women can play the powerful role of transformers if they step into that courage and they challenge the cult of ultimate evil, challenge its validity. On its face, it needs to be challenged. It needs to be recognized as inherently illegitimate authority in government and the violence that they conduct.
Freedom of Information Act. We're not asking for anything that we don't have the right to, basically. Okay. So, like I said, we're not asking for anything we don't have the right to. So,
are you saying that I don't have a right to those pictures?
Or have any information?
Yeah.
I don't?
So what does the transparency mean to you? They can ask for it.
And you can be denied, sure.
Well, of course you can deny anything, but that doesn't mean that's right.
You could take it to a court and see if they provide it.
Why wouldn't you provide that?
Why wouldn't you?
How do you not know who's who? Or you can't look it up by a car number.
We've got over 300 people working here. I don't know everybody that works here.
That's fine, but then the car number at that date and time at that place.
What are you afraid of?
I'm not afraid of anything.
You ladies don't look like you scare easily.
I'm about to give some really important advice to all the order followers out there today. And I can do it because I followed that advice and I already did it. Quit your cult.
Rising up, basically, we in charge. Fuck it.
It's corrupt because it's a system that's like imposed on people by force. Like they don't have a choice to opt out of it when it's not working, right?
I mean, we live on a planet that is run by other humans. You're always going to be put into a system without your consent. You're born in a country, aren't you? Doesn't matter what country you were born in. You didn't get to choose to be in that country. And even if you were, you don't get to choose to be like, oh, I'm not going to be part of this political or government system anymore. You're forced to.
Well, you could secede, right?
How? How? I'm asking.
Well, you buy property and declare yourself independent.
And so you could do that right now? Well, how would that change it and make it a better system for you? You're still stuck in America. You're still stuck in their system. It doesn't actually change anything.
So what would you do to change it?
Well, I'm going to end up doing exactly what you just said. I'm actually have plans to move to essentially the sticks, buy property, and live off the grid, which is actually also illegal. You can't even do that because if you want to do that, you can't collect your own rainwater and you can't make your own electricity.
I'm laughing because this is actually exactly what I am doing. I own a 10-acre piece of land in Ashford, Arizona, and I'm working towards that.